Hi, and welcome to the Lemonade Car Show, brought to you by OnVic. I'm your host, Lorraine Sommerfeld. I'm joined today by the president of the APA, Georgini, and the APA consultant, John Raymond. That's the Automobile Protection Association, who produced the show. Hi, gentlemen.
Hi.
Good to have you both back again. We do have some other topics we're getting into later in the half hour, but right off the top, George, I know you've got some information and news that is pertinent to especially our viewers out on the West Coast.
So consumer protection, that's our lifeblood at the APA, and we have some decisions that the Vehicle Sales Authority, which is a dealer regulator in British Columbia, has actually just rendered in the last couple of months. And a couple of them are pretty interesting. The first one has to do with Maury Nissan, which is a Vancouver area dealer. And it's one that the APA visited, actually, when we shopped. The dealer, and this is what they found, charged $120 for floor mats on new vehicles, even though the Nissan freight and PDI charge to consumers includes the mats. So that was the finding. And the dealer has agreed to refund 624 consumers $120.
So to put this simply, the car comes equipped with floor mats, like 2 seats in the front, like mirrors and air conditioning, and the dealer decided, in their wisdom, that we're going to charge them for floor mats as an extra cost option when the consumer was already paying for them and they were part of the car.
Now, I know that sometimes you charge for mats, but they are upgraded mats, like they are different than the one, but every car comes with floor mats, correct?
Most brands now include the mats.
Yeah.
Just, it was a pretty brazen.
Yeah.
It's interesting because we visited that dealership in 2015 with Secret Shoppers with cameras rolling, and we were actually quoted an extra charge for mats. So I don't know if that was what tipped them off, or if somebody inside. By the way, refunding 600 customers, John, would be what, about $80,000?
About $80,000 plus all the
substantial.
paperwork.
Yeah.
What could the consumer do in this case? They could read the owner's manual. There's a window sticker in the car that probably says that floor mats are included. Usually when you pay for extra floor mats, they would be rubber mats or winter mats or a more decorative mat.
Yeah.
Most cars come with floor mats. There are the exception. I think this is a pretty awful thing to do.
Yeah, I think so too.
Another one interesting, Kia South Vancouver. So this is another Vancouver area dealer. And what they were doing is they represented to consumers that the balance owing on their loan was a higher amount than they really owed. And then they pocketed the difference and they called it a business manager upgrade.
Well, you bet it is. The business manager got the upgrade.
This is an example of a consumer going in, and probably in the dialogue, I can't tell you for sure, the consumer indicated, I have an outstanding loan. And they said, okay, give us our loan number or your name or what have you. They got a payout or the amount that the person owned, and let's, for argument's sake, it's $10,000. And then they tacked on a fee
for rolling
on that, okay, for basically helping them get the sale, assisting the sale. Dealers don't charge a fee for paying out a consumer's loan with the consumer's money. Okay, it just doesn't exist.
So the VSA, is that comparable to OnVic here in Ontario and AMVIC in Alberta, which are places that provide oversight for consumers at the dealer level?
That's right. So they're a industry-run dealer regulator. It's a bit like a professional body. I'm happy to see these decisions because it means at least there's some activity happening. It also shows you that it can be a pretty crooked business, the way some people do it. The fines are very low, by the way, $7,000 or $8,000.
That's it?
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, so that, this one,
well, that's why
quoting a wrong price is really fraud.
Yeah.
And you should consider yourself pretty lucky that that's all you
so
have to pay.
And if you're going to charge a fee for handling somebody's payout, you should tell him or her that you're charging a fee.
But then why would they bother, John? Wouldn't they just do it themselves?
Of course. But I'm just saying, it's you can't charge a fee and not tell somebody.
No, they called it additional business manager upgrade.
Let me ask you something, though, because if I get financing at a dealership through a manufacturer, if that financing is through a bank, they get a kickback on that from that bank.
They do.
And that wasn't revealed until about a year ago. Like, that wasn't common knowledge. It's still not common knowledge. So that's just a horse of a different color.
This is telling you your payout is $10,700 when it was really only, let's say, $10,003.
This is misleading the consumer to believe that they owe more than they actually do because the retailer wants to
Because
take
they've stuffed a fee in there.
a fee and pad their deal.
Additional business manager upgrade. That also
I love
means
that.
someone very high in the dealership has to know about it because your accounting system would have
Yeah.
had to create a separate account to track
Yeah.
that.
And are they returning that, George, as well?
Yes, the good part about both these decisions from the Vehicle Sales Authority is that they focused quite a lot on restitution. They've asked actually the dealers to hire a third party, so it has to be, I assume, an audited report to make sure the money went back to customers. The fines are low, but it's nice to see the money get back in the hands of the people who were taken to start with.
And
Which
this
puts
is a
the
good
teeth
change
that-
in our, this is not a good change, but
No.
the good change in our industry is if you
Yeah.
look at the VSA or OMVIC in Ontario, other provinces, they are going out and doing the job. And they are also ensuring that consumers understand what they're doing, such as posting it online, their
putting
findings,
putting some teeth in the law. We'll be back after this break on the Lemonade Car Show. Welcome back to the Lemonade Car Show, sponsored by OMVIC. I'm joined now by Tim Danter. He's a driving specialist, and John Raymond. He's a specialist with the APA. Welcome, Tim.
Thank you for having me.
You have had a wild and varied career. A lot of people might recognize you as the head driving instructor on Canada's Worst Driver.
Yeah.
And now you're working in a different field altogether, as well as still doing that. You're working as a therapy consultant. You're teaching people to drive who are coming back off of psychological injuries in some cases?
Yeah, so I'm sort of a driving rehabilitation specialist and a driving therapist. So my clientele basically would be people who are have been involved in a crash, whether they're a passenger or a driver, and are trying to get back behind the wheel. So part of what I do is work with psychologists who help them get over their fears of driving, and then I go on the road and I actually use strategies and step-by-step sort of ways of helping them get back to what they used to be pre-collision.
Okay, I'm going to use this as a segue into something that I wanted to talk to you about since I read a couple weeks ago about this and wrote about it. In the U.S., over the past 2 years, they've seen a 14% spike in fatalities on the road, which is mind-blowing, and it has the entire industry down there freaking out because for decades, the fatality rate was tumbling because of all the safety features in cars. Instead, what we're seeing is people are taking all that stuff for granted, and they're also driving far more distracted than they ever were before. Manufacturers understand they're providing a lot of this distraction, so they have something to answer for as well.
I think there's several issues at play. One is certainly distracted driving, which I don't want to take your thunder away with texting, as we all know about, and safety aids where we forget to turn our heads and we rely on bells and whistles and things like that.
Yeah. And there's also people are driving more because gas is cheap and we're commuting more. But when you're teaching somebody, what do we tell our kids? How do we teach people when the cars are doing everything?
Well, I
what do we do?
I don't tell clients and teacher or students rely on technology. You've got to have your raw skill. So I actually teach to the level of raw skill. And I will train them on the most common types of technology that are in the car, the blind spot detectors, the most common one being the reverse camera. Lane departures aren't so much common, but I tell them, regardless of what technology is in the car, you are the driver of this vehicle and you have a responsibility to ensure that your move in traffic is done in a safe manner. Regardless of what technology is telling you, do not rely on it because it can fail. It's a computer.
I think we're currently in the most dangerous time we've probably ever seen because the cars are capable of doing all this stuff because the manufacturers and everybody want to come to full autonomy. So the tech is there, but we're not there and drivers aren't there, yet we're relying on it increasingly. So it's like, who's on first? And in that car, in that moment, the cars around you are scrambling as well. And I think that's why I'm worried that we're going to see the spike here in Canada because what happens down there, we have the same cars, we have the same toys. What do I tell my kids? There's people who have traction control. All the cars have had it now for, 20 years? 20 years.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't understand when they set off the traction control, they just overplayed their hand.
Right.
But they don't even know that.
No, and that's exactly what happens is that if your bells and whistles are going off in the car, it's not saving you for, well, it is. It's alerting you to something's gone wrong, but you did something to activate that bell or whistle, and it's like, what did you do? You let your guard down, and you cannot let your guard down as a driver, regardless.
What we've seen at the APA is people are purchasing their cars at the retailer. They don't understand what they're getting. They're told, oh, the car will stop for itself, emergency braking, or they're not even told anything, and they get into traffic in an urban environment such as a Toronto, and they hear all sorts of noises coming from their car they don't know. So people don't read owner's manuals, don't do some of these things, and yet are getting behind the wheel.
And that's a really good point that you brought up, John, is the fact that at what point does the dealership take some responsibility and let them know what is in their car and what it's going to do, how it's going to react? Is this now something that the dealer should be responsible to a certain extent, other than saying, go and read your owner's manual or watch this video?
Well, I think what's difficult is when you take delivery of a new car, and I'm defending dealers and salespeople here, which I don't frequently do, but they'll want to spend that hour, or frankly 2 hours is not too long, going over everything. The people are so excited to get a new car, they want to get in it, point and shoot, they want to go, and they forget. And I remember actually a few years ago going back every week to reset my Bluetooth because I couldn't remember how to do it.
And you know what? You're right, Lorraine. Okay, some of the responsibility could be the retailer, but the onus is on the purchaser to read their owner's manual, to come back if they don't have. One of our retailers that we work with in the Toronto area, they have a program where they encourage their new customers to come back at a month or 2 month interval for a re-acquaintance of their vehicle, right?
Smart. I'm seeing more dealers do that, and it's a really good thing to be offering, and it builds up in the community. It's good involvement, but it's also a smart thing because you get your new car, and a lot of it, you don't encounter the things going off in it until you do. Like you said, the urban setting and the brake applies. Yep. You could be driving, all of a sudden it's going, and it's pulling you back when you're, because you forgot to put your indicator on. Not that I've ever done that, but it will hit the paint and pull you back over.
The other issue with a lot of cars today, there are some very good features like voice command. If you know how to use the voice command features, it will turn your heating and air conditioning up higher, defroster on some cars, turn off your radio. But a lot of people are not using actually the safety features that they have.
And they should use it in dry dock. 30 seconds are yours, the last one. What would you like to tell people buying new cars today?
Do your due diligence, make sure that you buy a vehicle that you know what the technology is and what it does, and don't rely on it 100%. At the end of the day, the onus comes down to you as the driver, regardless of what technology is there to do for or against you.
Work with it, learn your car.
Yep.
And be willing to
That's
change,
right, because at
be
some
willing
point
to change the way you drive.
it can fail you at some point in time.
Oh yeah, and old driving habits need to die hard.
And how about go back for retraining? Find somebody like Tim and get more experience, more training.
Absolutely. Tim Danter, thank you so much. Lemonade Car Show. We'll return after this short break. Welcome back to the Lemonade Car Show, brought to you by Onvic. We're joined now by our mechanic, Chris Muir, Professor Chris Muir, and John Raymond.
Hi.
We never have enough time with Tim.
No, that's
There
true.
you go, a whole hour. That's crazy. Anyway, hi.
Hi.
We have a good question queued up for you right out of the gate, and I know you're going to put your teeth into it as well.
Oh, hi. My name is Frank. I'm calling from Ottawa. I had a question for the Lemonade Car Show. I own a Volkswagen diesel. I lived in the Ottawa region, and I was looking at my option of buying another diesel. And on the market, I saw the Chevrolet Cruze diesel, and I wanted to have your opinion on buying another diesel first, and second of all, what is your opinion on the Chevrolet Cruze? Thank you so very much. Have a good day.
That is a good question. So I'll let you guys start with the diesel.
You know what my first question is why diesel? If someone's made up their mind about diesel, I'd be asking why. And if they say I'm a high miler and I want 1,000 kilometers on a tank and I'm going to put, 500,000 or 600,000 kilometers on the engine, I'd be saying, yeah, you should be looking at a diesel still. But basically, diesel is dead. Volkswagen killed it. It put a stake through everybody else's heart, and it's going to go. Everyone brought out the other ones to try and compete. That said, the Cruise is,
Saying that I happened to drive the Cruise just weeks ago for a week, drove it extensively, almost 2,000 kilometers. Cruise is a nice platform to begin with, has some very good features, some good safety features, is comfortable. With the diesel, believe it or not, it's even better. There's lots of torque. It's a better diesel than a Volkswagen TDI, and I've driven many Volkswagen TDIs. The engine was quiet, had nice torque. It's paired with a 9-speed automatic or a 6-speed manual. And I was really impressed. And I mean, the real world fuel economy was great. And with all that torque in an urban environment like Toronto, 400 series highways, gridlock, you know, it's just inching along and it's doing great. And in the real world, it was a great car. But who's going to buy that? Diesel, like you said, is dead.
I just ask why. Sometimes people have an idea they want something, and it's because they've heard all this stuff. And again, if he's coming from Volkswagen diesels, maybe he's a diesel guy, and that's the cars that he's been looking at. And I don't blame him for thinking VW broke his heart.
Well, yeah, I mean, listen, there's a couple manufacturers now that came out of this Dieselgate scandal, if you will. Volkswagen, Mitsubishi, Dodge is involved, Fiat's involved with it now, and they go back and they're looking at the supplier for a whole bunch of that stuff. Is diesel dead? In a commuter car capacity, yeah, they're getting pretty dead. There's still going to be a place for the fuel in heavy duty, right, or heavy duty light passenger vehicles, and I think the technology you're going to see that whole scandal was really, really bad for diesel and the emission output from it because they cheated the things that make it better to get the numbers to attract the customers, right? The engines are higher maintenance typically than a gasoline engine. They're more expensive to repair. There's less specialists out there for diesel engines. And honestly, that longevity of the diesel engine, it's a bit of a fallacy now. I mean, we're seeing some crazy mileages out of gasoline-powered engines.
Well, that's the other thing I was going to say, that internal combustion engines, gas engines, we call ICE, they're doing incredibly well. 50 miles per gallon on Civics,
Well, I feel like the
is a reality.
The conversation's pole vaulted past diesel and into hybrids and electrics. Like asking what's coming down the curve.
Even gasoline technology. If you don't like the spark plugs in a gasoline, just wait. Mazda's bringing out a gasoline engine that uses compression like a diesel to ignite the fuel. So I mean, there's all kinds of stuff, all kinds of avenues we're exploring.
I guess the answer for Frank is, I enjoy driving the car. If you love diesel, you'll love this Cruise diesel. Is it a car for everyone? No, but it actually is one of the best Cruises out there.
So they can go for that. Another gas question. Someone's asking super gas, which I kind of like, super gas.
Super or premium. Best thing to do? Read the owner's book.
Manual.
All that premium fuel is a resistance to pre-ignition for high-performance engines. A lot of the time you're doing more harm than good by running a premium fuel in a regular car. Some manufacturers, if you read the manual, say, do not run premium in this vehicle. It all has to do with the ignition point of the fuel, and if the combustion chamber is too cold to ignite the fuel, you're doing yourself a disservice.
One other point I want to make is sometimes in some of the newer engines, they're putting their fuel economy numbers, and you open up the last thing, it says you can use 87, like normal stuff, a Pioneer or whatever. But their numbers are based on a high octane fuel, and they're hiding that in the fine print. And this is a mainstream manufacturer that's doing this, and I got a little angry about it because I think that's really misleading to do that, to post that number versus on this one. Because I opened that up, it says, you may use 87. I'm using 87. I'm not going to pay more than I have to.
Well, that's the rule of thumb. Look at the placard, the sticker on the fuel door, read your owner's manual, and if it's 87, it's 87, the car's going to run fine.
Right. The performance recommended, I know with one manufacturer that I worked for, they had a turbocharged version of the same car, and you could get away with running regular. But if you put in a high octane fuel that would allow it to advance the timing a little bit, you got more horsepower out of the car, right? As soon as it had a little knock in it, the engine would go, or the computer would go, whoa, this is 87, you don't get full.
Yeah, so that's...
Right? But you put 97 in it, and it would give you an extra 20 or 30 horsepower on top.
So read your owner's manual.
Read your owner's book.
For everything.
For everything. We'll be right back after this break on the Lemonade Car Show. Welcome back to the Lemonade Car Show, sponsored by Automotive. I'm joined by Chris Muir and John Raymond. In the break, I brought up the topic of tires because it's one of my favorite topics, but we did have a question come in over the email. How do I know when my tires are still good?
Oh my, that's
It's a loaded question.
that
isn't
is a loaded question. There's a lot of facets to that. Some of it has to do with the tire depth, right? Tread depth, you want over 230 seconds as a minimum in this province. Your 430 seconds is probably a better, it's still good as far as depth goes, and that's 30 seconds of an inch. You want to make sure that your date code is still relevant. You're not driving around on something that has the pliability of a hockey puck.
So that's like your best before date on
That's
milk.
a best before date, absolutely.
Well, no, it's the date of birth, though. Tells you when the tire was born,
Essentially,
not when
yes.
it expires.
Yes, that's true. That's
So
true.
Be careful. Can you see the stampede to the tire place tomorrow with
my.
people coming in if they think it
You
expires?
sold me something that expired 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Yes, no, that's not true at all. That's the date of manufacture. But it shouldn't be over that 5-6 years old ever.
Even if the tread looks amazing, this comes
Even if
up
the tread
sometimes.
looks amazing, I mean, you can get a professional to look at a tire and they'll say, hey, you know what, this thing's still pliable, it's been stored in a C-bin and it's never seen a UV ray in its entire existence. You got lucky. If you've got something that was sitting outside on the tire rack for 2 years, that's probably not your best bet.
And I think the other thing is sometimes, I know, John, you get these questions too. If someone has a car and they don't do a lot of miles every year, say they do a couple thousand kilometers, some people, if they're just, they'll go, well, the tires look great. They're 10 years old, but they look fabulous, and I never go anywhere.
Age, there's cracking,
rubber.
there's wear UV damage.
Yep.
Exactly.
And
So
tires usually last 8 years.
Yeah.
That's the maximum.
From the date that they were manufactured, which is on the side
Combination
the
of
tire.
age
Age.
and mileage
And exposure to sunlight.
and exposure
And
to
also
sunlight.
suspension. If there's any suspension
sure.
damage, you're going to get
Absolutely.
uneven wear on the tires.
And also, sometimes if you're going to pick up, especially the construction, is there construction in the city where you live in the
No.
summer?
No.
It's so easy to pick up nails and things like that.
Yeah, and repairing them properly or having them repaired properly is it's a bit of a gamble at times. If you don't know who to trust with your tire, who's doing a plug and patch, where they're repairing the injury, right? Or if the injury is safe to be repaired. Anything sidewall or about a thumb width from the sidewall, that shouldn't be repaired. That's a high flex point and it'll actually work your patch back out of your tire.
And we made a video where I changed a tire and you pretended to be off camera, not helping me at all.
That's correct.
Yeah, not at all. You put the donut on.
Yes.
Car I was driving had a little donut. Those are to get you to safety.
They are.
Those are not to wheel around.
No.
Up to 80K an
Yeah.
hour.
An hour, yeah. And even then, no, but they're to get you
They
to
are to
safety.
get you to safety. Depending on the manufacturer of the car, they have certain positions that they recommend. If you're on the side of the 401, replace the flat tire. Don't start rotating your tires in the middle of the highway, right? Just put the donut on.
Actually, just call for help. Like we did the thing to prove you should know how to change a
Yes.
tire just in case you're in the middle of nowhere. But frankly, your phone is your best friend. Have professionals come and do it. Don't get out of your car on the
Yeah,
side
a
of the
roadside
road.
assistance program is
And remember
best
how
friend.
important tires are. That's what touches the road.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
what causes the braking and your ability to accelerate and turn and
buy the
your
best
safety.
tires you can.
It's remarkable. People will cheap out on tires, and I'm not panning people who don't have high budgets because I don't, and I really didn't for a long time. But the tires, getting winter tires on, especially, I looked at my kids and thought it's not. I would
it's
borrow
not
the
a
money.
choice.
And consult a
Winter
tire expert. There are many good ones. The APA has tire information on our website, apa.ca. It's convenient to go on and get that information.
Think of it early before you're standing there in the first major snowstorm going, I need tires, and the clerk at the tire store goes,
Everybody does.
I got nothing for you.
I got nothing for
Yeah.
Chris, how could you find out if your tires are worn? I've heard the wear bars.
There is wear bars. When they're at the wear bars, they're way past service life. You can buy these little things. They're called tread depth gauges. I like to recommend that you start looking at tires right around that 432nd and replace them at 3. The wear bar is at 232 of tread life, and if it's down there, you've got no real traction advantage left on the tire.
Kilometer-wise, though, say I've driven on my tires for 4 years, and I'm at 50,000 kilometers. I'm going to be starting to think about this purchase.
What was
Why
the
not?
tread that the tire originally came with?
New.
What was the measurement? Was it 21/32 or was it 9/32?
Just let someone eyeball your tires for you if
Well,
you don't know how to do it.
Take it to a professional and get them to
So
actually do an
every
evaluation.
tire has a different
Yeah.
tire wear rating,
Yeah.
Compound hardness.
compound hardness.
And there's levels of tires. There's A, B, C. And if you buy the
Absolutely.
C, that's fine, but you've just delayed having,
Well, I
you're
mean,
going to have to
there's-
buy them sooner
Right.
than if you,
Right down to ZR, really. I mean, you're looking at
So
different
you could buy a
compounds.
high performance
Yeah.
tire that's
Yeah.
under 300 is the rating,
Yeah.
and they don't last long. Or
No.
you could buy, super long lasting high silic tire, which could be in the 500s and they'll last for maybe 80, 90,000 kilometers.
okay,
So,
but everyone take a
There
look.
is a wide variety of tires and options, and your best bet is to read up on it, consult with professionals, professionals you trust, of course, and pick the best tire for what the type of driving you do is.
And of course, call the Lemonade Car Show.
Yeah.
That's all the time we have for the Lemonade Car Show. We're brought to you by OMVIC, the Ontario Motor Vehicle Industry Council, and Crown Rust Proofing. I'd like to thank John Raymond, Chris Muir, and Tim Danter. Thanks to you viewers. Bye, everybody.